Solomon wanted to marry. Unlike you and I, whose ambition is to have one wife, he married 1,000 women. So God wanted his temple built by this man who was an unusual, extravagant king. So God needed a man of style. Shout hallelujah. A man who knew how to spend money. A man who had high taste. And that man was Solomon. If you are going to do anything for God, please do it. If you don't want to do that something for God, don't do it. God does not believe in middle ground. Look at giraffe. Very, very tall. Look at the reindeer. 2 horns, but with different branches. This God, how did he think out all these things? Everything came out in its own design and its own style. Our God is a God of style. And if a temple is going to be built for him, he will want something very, very special. Your God-given capacity. Can we say it together? And the text is from 2 Samuel 7, 1 to 16. Capacity means the measure of volume you can receive and return. Dams are built according to determined capacities. It has been said that a thirsty camel can drink 30 gallons or 135 liters of water in 13 minutes. This is because the camels were created with such large capacity. If you are able to drink that much water, you are going to burst because you were not created with such capacity. God created everything and everyone with adequate capacity utilization in mind. God gives us assignments based on our different capacities. He endues us and endows us based on the same consideration. God does not just bless us for our sakes. Every blessing God gives to us, he considers an investment made to a partner. And if we are partners with God, God is expecting to reap from the partnership he had made investment into. So you reap, but he himself has something to reap from the investment he makes into your life. We saw all the odds that were against Solomon in his bid to ascending the throne of David. His mother's marriage to David had Keleg. It wasn't a proper marriage. The mother was a woman who exposed her body, enticed the king of Israel, got him to sleep with her. Pregnancy occurred. This woman's husband was murdered. Finally, this whole mess turned into a marriage. Solomon himself, as we are told in 1 Chronicles 3:5, wasn't even the only or the first surviving son of Bathsheba. We are told there he was the last. He was number 4. So what a young lad he was when this aspiration of becoming a king came upon him. Adonijah, who contested against him, was old enough to be his father. Solomon had no advantage of age. He had no position. He had no clout. He had no influence which could help him succeed in his bid for the throne of Israel. And his mother's name stank as a woman of cheap character. But despite all these things, God manipulated this boy and catapulted him to the throne of Israel. So the question is, what was God's interest? What was his interest in this boy whose background was awful? In this boy whose dream was a hopeless one? What was God's interest? Solomon possessed a very rare capacity, and God wanted to use it. God told his father David, "You are not the one to build me this house. Your hands are soiled with blood. The one man to build this temple is a man in whose dictionary there is nothing like economy." Solomon was his name. His second name ought to be Mr. Extravagance. His first worship to God cost him 1,000 burnt offerings. Listen to his offering at the dedication of the temple he built, as shown in 1 Kings 8:63. And Solomon offered a sacrifice of peace offerings, which he offered to the Lord, 20,000 bulls. Can you imagine 20,000 cows lined up? Can you imagine can you imagine what a crowd? 20,000 bulls and 120,000 sheep, all to be burnt unto God, the Most High. This man wanted to marry. Unlike you and I, whose ambition is to have one wife, he married 1,000 women. Hallelujah. Extravagance was in his nature. Concerning the temple he built for God, 1 Kings 6:21 says that the whole interior was coated, was overlaid with gold. Ceiling, walls, pillars, everything coated with gold. And the floor of the temple he overlaid with gold, both the inner and outer sanctuaries. They say this one is marble. Gold was used. Those of you who say that wearing gold is problem, is sin. He used it to floor the place, so that as you walk into the temple, you are walking on gold. Then 1 Kings 10:27, the king made silver as common in Jerusalem as stones. So streets, they piled up silver by the streets. This shows you that this man is not just ordinary man like you and I. And he made cedar trees. Remember when David finished building his house, and he said, "See me living in a house built with cedar. And the ark of God is in ordinary tent." So to David, living in a house built with cedar was something special. But his son Solomon made cedar to be abundant as the sycamores which are in the lowland. The temple was going to be second to none. The Queen of Sheba heard of this man's extravagance, his achievement, his displays of wealth and style, and she came all the way from her kingdom. Theologians tell us that that was Yemen. Traveled all the way on her camel trains with servants and ambassadors just to come and see what Solomon did with wealth. Hallelujah. There was going to be nothing like, let us manage this one or let us manage that one. In the building of this temple he built for God. That was his attitude in anything he was doing, whether he was doing it for God or whether he was doing it for himself. So God wanted his temple built by this man who was an unusual, extravagant king. David was rejected. You are not the one to build it. Number one reason, you killed too many people as a warrior. But I want to tell you there was a second reason. David knew nothing about architecture, proper architecture. He knew about sheep, goats, lion, bear. In the bush, he knew about caves. He knew about mountains. He knew about valleys. He was a typical bushman. He lived in the bush almost all the days of his life, fighting. So God needed a man of style. Shout hallelujah. A man who knew how to spend money. A man who had high taste. And that man was Solomon. So what does this tell us? If you are going to do anything for God, please do it. If you don't want to do that something for God, don't do it. God said in Revelation 3:15 and 16, either be hot or be cold. God does not believe in middle ground. When he created the universe, God created it out of the spirit of extravagance. Look at the plants God created. Look at the flowers. Look at the birds. Look at sea creatures. If you watch nature, you go to those stations that show you the creatures that live in the sea. You can't even number them. You see some that look like sticks. You see other one, it looks like masquerade. I mean, they are weird and different according to their species. Shout hallelujah. God created canyons. He created the heavens and decorated them with all kinds of stars. Did they not even tell us that the sun is a kind of star? Look at the mountains, look at the waterfalls. Look at animals. Created kangaroo. Kangaroo has two big legs at the back and two small ones in front, and it hops with the back one. Looking very weird. Look at rhino. One horn at the center. He created cows and animals of the like with two horns. He created the elephant with one big tusk at the center. With it can breathe. With it can drink water. Look at giraffe. Very, very tall. Look at the reindeer. Two horns, but with different branches. This God, how did he think out all these things? Everything came out in its own design and its own style. So our God is a God of style. And if a temple is going to be built for him, he will want something very, very special.
We hope this message has inspired you. Thank you for watching. To order for this message, please call 080-3641-2443. God bless you.